Hey, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural PCIP podcast powered by Virtus. Super excited to have Mark Robinson with Great Range Capital. Mark, welcome to podcast number one.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Appreciate you inviting me. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. Are you ready to blow up on LinkedIn? Are you ready to blow up on Twitter and Twitch and Instagram and everything? Because this is going to rock the world of private equity and insurance.
I think so. And I actually knew what at least half of those were, which is pretty good these days as the days go by. So, no, glad to do it. Although I did not know I was the inaugural one, so now I'm a little more nervous. Creates a little bit of anxiety here, but let's blow up the world, Mike. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Sounds great. So, briefly, how about Mark, a little background on yourself personally? I know you've been with Great Range for quite some time, climbing the ladder, and love to hear just about you personally, and then obviously a little bit about Great Range.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to. And frankly, I'll just tie it all together. It's kind of give you the little infomercial here. So, Mark Robinson. So I'm a managing director here with Great Range Capital. Been here for about a decade. And Great Range Capital in general has been around for about a decade. So, lower middle market private equity firm based here in Kansas City. Got our start kind of late 2010, early 2011 timeframe. So at that time, two gentlemen came back and started the firm. Ryan Sprott and Paul Maxwell are their names, and both had similar backgrounds. They were from Kansas City, both went to University of Kansas, and then both had spent their careers out east. Ryan had been a partner with the firm DLJ Merchant Banking, which is the old private equity arm of Credit Suisse. And then Paul, who's actually Ryan's brother-in-law, so they know each other well, go back to high school, had been with the firm Monitor Clipper Partners in Boston, and prior to that had been with Fenway Partners and Solomon Smith Barney in New York. But given the family ties, often thought about doing something together. And as they thought about what that could be, to them, it felt like there was an opportunity to come back to not just Kansas City, but the broader Midwest on the premise that historically there's just been a lot of great companies within this region of the country partnering with groups like ours, but quite frankly, just not a lot of true institutional private equity groups like ours local to the region supporting that activity. And more often than not, it was groups coming in from New York, LA, Chicago to do these deals when in particular, the size range we focus on, which is kind of 3 to 12 million of EBITDA, 20 to 100 million of revenue, a lot of those are family or entrepreneur businesses who prefer a local partner. Somebody gets the local culture, value, ethics of the region. But with the caveat being that local partner's got to be as good as the groups who historically come in from the money setter cities with respect to resources, capabilities, all the stuff that can make it fun to work with groups like ours. And so, the shtick, for lack of a better term, is marrying that institutional background and expertise of our prior lives, all coming from billion-dollar plus type funds, but again, pairing it with a Midwest attitude and respect for values that to many business owners within this region can be as important, if not more important, than just paying the right price and bringing the resources. And so I joined them within that first year. Similar background, also from Kansas City, also went to KU, so not much on the diversity effort there. But instead of out of school, instead of going east, I went north. So I did a couple of years in the Twin Cities with an investment bank called Piper Sandler. At the time, It was Piper Jaffray. I was in their healthcare group, specifically focusing on medical devices. Subsequent to that, I moved to Chicago, where I worked for a large generalist private equity firm called Windpoint Partners. But I'm from here. My wife's from here. Our families are here, and so longer term, the goal was always to get back to Kansas City if I could. And so, was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to do that in 2011, and we've been at it ever since. And it's gone well. We've now done 23 deals across 8 platforms. We're generalists by trade, so if you look at what we've done historically, we've been in the transportation logistics space. We've been in distribution, consumer products. We've done a couple beverage deals. We closed the deal earlier this week. That's a pallet manufacturing business. And so we take a pretty broad approach, and we have a good network of operating advisors and expertise that allows us to do that. We stay away from things that are pretty niche. So real estate, financial institutions, high tech generally aren't great fits for us. But,
Right.
But aside from that, we take a pretty broad approach. And really the one, again, consistent theme through the portfolio that unifies it is, they're all family and entrepreneurial businesses. And certainly business owners who want and deserve a fair price and want and deserve a group who can bring resources. But, we're as focused, if not more focused on the intangible components of partnership. What happens to my culture, my employees, my legacy, the value set, and given those are the only sorts of transactions we do, we feel like we're pretty dang good partners in those situations.
Little background. I know you have four little munchkins running around. How do you balance business and family, especially during the interesting year of 2020?
I'd say, I mean, if you've done a Zoom call with me over the course of the summer, I balance it by just combining it. Harper and William, the 6 and 4-year-old, and Thomas, the 2-year-old, have made more than their fair share of appearances and couple calls, management presentations, everything else. So it's our youngest is 4 months, so he's a little more confined from time to time. But it takes some work, but it's been a lot of fun. Work a little longer at night, get up a little earlier in the day so you can still spend the time with them, be there for breakfast, take them to school, pick them up, dinners, weekends, everything else. So certainly having a rock star of a wife doesn't hurt at all. And so it's been an interesting time I think for all of us, but never a dull moment in the Robinson household for sure.
Very cool. And then that's exciting. I'm sure you're enjoying it, but I would relish every minute of it because all of a sudden they're out of the house and they don't want to talk to you that much. So enjoy it.
Yeah. No, it's for sure.
What about, so your firm has had a really good 2020 in spite of everything going on. Is there one or two things why do you attribute the success? Is it just attitude, or you had a nice pipeline? What do you attribute to the success of, closing a handful of deals this year?
Yeah, I'd say it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. I mean, so one of the opportunities, we've closed 2 platforms, an add-on, and we're midstream or near the end of raising our second fund. So we've had a whole host of things going on throughout 2020, which, as you can imagine, a lot of uncertainty when the pandemic hit about how it would happen. And the first platform that we closed is actually, we invested in a pair of coffee companies as well as a bakery here in Kansas City, the Roastery and Messenger, and then Ibis Bakery. And that transaction was basically the culmination of 6 to 7 years worth of relationship building and timing and what have you. And we basically came to terms and kind of structured a deal and developed a thesis with the 2 ownership groups of those businesses and got it structured in February, which, obviously as you hit March, everything was like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen? How are you going to do it? And so, certainly that one ultimately getting done was a bit reflective of just the pipeline and the building, but going to the second piece, having the right attitude and being creative and flexible to really understand how is this business going to operate and what's the longer term vision? Does the thesis still hold? Does it still work? Are we still the right partners and everything else? Played in a lot to whether we were able to get that deal done. And it was just an excellent example of bringing great people around the table all together. Danny O'Neill, the founder of the Roastery, the Mage family, and the rest of the executive team and ownership team on the Messenger side. And we all sat down, and we have an executive we partnered with who's now the CEO of Fairwave, which is what we're calling the investment, named Dan Trott. And we sat down, we looked at the facts and situation and kind of the collective vision we developed, and very quickly, all agreed that, hey, that's still there. There's going to be some choppiness here. There's going to be some interesting times, not just for coffee businesses, but everything else. And so let's all sit around and make this deal work and figure out what it needs to look like. And so ended up with a creative, collaborative partnership all throughout the summer, and we're able to get the deal done here in September, and it's been off to the races ever since. We've had a lot of fun there. The other deal we've done, again, it's reflective of the pipeline and relationship building on the pallet side. And so, again, it's a lot going on right now, but if you take the right attitude, stuff can still be figured out, and there's certainly opportunities out there.
What do you see for 2021 for kind of, Great Range Capital and more broadly the, PE industry as a whole?
Yeah, it's really a continuation of the same to some degree. I've been amazed at the resiliency of the M&A market since the pandemic hit. Certainly in the early stages, March, April, May, as everything kind of crescendoed, at least from a public response standpoint, you had the shutdowns. Everything really just hit pause because no one knew what was happening. No one knew what the fallout was going to be. And just, the fear of the unknown paralyzed everybody. But as you started to see, or basically get the sampling of, how are businesses reacting? How are individuals reacting? How can you, balance safety and all these things with, commerce and what have you? How do you do it the right way? How do you do it the wrong way? and people started just seeing how these businesses reacted, that's where the activity started picking up because the uncertainty started to go away. And I say that because as you've entered Q3 and Q4, more often than not, you're hearing people are busier than even prior to the pandemic. And a lot of, the M&A advisors we work with, investment banks, they're having record years. And so,
Right.
I don't necessarily see things slowing down in 2021 with regard to the broader industry. Part of that is people have, in many respects, figured out, kind of how the business will react in the pandemic. I think we all hope and pray that the pandemic ebbs here pretty dang quickly to the extent we're able to get a successful rollout of the vaccine. But, as you can see over the last 2 quarters, 3-4 months, activity I think will persist regardless because you still have this dynamic of people with capital to put to work and a lot of great businesses and opportunities out there. And so, for Great Range, I'd say it's going to be a continuation of that as well. You mentioned we've had some really nice momentum this year. We're looking to close on our second fund here early 2021. So we're raising $125 million and we're just about there, which is great. The 2 deals I've mentioned, the coffee and the pallet deals, are the first investments out of that fund. And then, for us, it's getting out there, continuing to execute on our pipeline, develop the pipeline. And then we're also expanding our team right now as we looking to bring on an associate, which is kind of somebody who's finished their 2 years of investment banking analyst program, and then probably somebody that's more kind of a mid-level execution type role as well, a VP principal type role. And so, we've got a lot of opportunities in front of us and looking to find a couple other great additions to the team to help us really capitalize on it all.
That's exciting. It seems like you have about 10 folks now, and it's been just growing by a couple, it seems like every year. So it's just,
Yep.
Wish I could have bought your stock a few years ago if you guys were listed.
Hey, you know what? The fund's not closed yet. We still got a little bit of room for you, Mike. Come on, dial it up.
So quick question, off business for a second. Kansas graduate. I'm pretty sure you're a sports fan. So Gale Sayers, Wilt Chamberlain, Danny Manning. Who's your favorite? Who's the most famous athlete out of Kansas? Because I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say Wilt is probably the one that transcends a little bit. Gale Sayers absolutely as well. Those are the big ones. Some of the more contemporaries, you get Paul Pierce. Going back to the 50s, you get Clyde Lovelett a little bit. He's one of the more famous basketball players if you really want to go a little retro. So, I'd say you hit the highlights, and then certainly Danny Manning. It's not being a Kansas fan by virtue of you listening on that's kind of your answer right there.
Right,
it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Great Range has kind of a unique program, if you wouldn't mind touching on it, the Ambassador Partnership Program. If you want to touch on that for a couple minutes.
Yeah, for sure. So our Market Ambassador Program we started a few years ago, and really the development of that is reflective of the sorts of partnerships that we pursue. Trying to find people who, again, are focused on the intangible component of a partnership and kind of have that same alignment with respect to value set and not only this desire to go out and make money as businesses want to do, but to do it the right way, to treat people the right way, and just kind of conduct yourself in the right manner. And so to do that, you got to kiss a lot of frogs, so to speak, or whatever saying you want to use there. I'm thinking about all the deals we've done now. They're like, I'm a frog. What are you saying, Mark? But it's, for us, that means we've got to put a lot of activity into developing a pipeline of deals and sourcing deals and partnerships. And on top of that, by virtue of what we're talking about, the sorts of transactions we do typically take a lot of time to develop. I mentioned the coffee was a 5, 6, 7 year type courtship and development because, as we know here in the Midwest, relationship trust matters, but relationships and trust aren't developed in a manner of minutes and sitting in a meeting. It's through consistent contact and rapport and development of those relationships. And so recognizing that, there's 9 of us here looking to expand 2 more on the team, there's just not enough hours in the day for us to consistently be going in and to a lot of the markets that are great markets for us and developing that in-person relationship, which, prior to the pandemic was a pretty regular thing we did regardless. And so, the Market Ambassador Program was something we developed to basically enhance our efforts to do that. And so, I think we've got 11 now. We're looking to expand the program, but basically those are relationships where we're looking to develop partnerships with, basically individuals who've touched the deal world historically. So accountants, accountants, brokers, lawyers, bankers, potential former investors, people who know everybody around town. They're trusted members of their community. They don't want to do the full-time gig anymore, but like to go out and do that networking. And so, we bring them in, bring them onto the Great Range Capital team, facilitate for them to do that networking, with the goal being to them ultimately, hopefully, find partnerships that could be a fit for us. And so for us, it does two things. One, it allows us to have a much more permanent presence within those communities. And I'm talking about Omaha, Lincoln, Topeka, Wichita, Springfield, great communities with great businesses that could be fits for what we're doing. But a little smaller and maybe not called on as often as the Kansas Cities, the Denvers, the St. Louis's of the world. So it allows us to have a permanent presence within the community. And then by virtue of partnering with these individuals who, again, are trusted members of their community, we're hopeful that it'll get us to the finish line more quickly with respect to opportunities. And that, as we move forward, it's kind of one of those that, if he's a friend of Dan's, he's a friend of mine type thing versus, I've known Dan for 20 years. And so it's worked out well for us. And it's something we continue to expand and have really enjoyed and gotten great feedback on it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And from afar, it seems like y'all have a lot of fun with it as well. You get together. I don't know how often, but make it fun. I mean, life is short. So it's really cool.
You saw the cocktail packages for our last annual meeting. It's pretty good.
Right.
It's pretty good. This one was a little bit different, but no, it's a lot of fun. We're in constant contact with those individuals and just good people. I mean, and ultimately for all of us, I think why we like this area of finance versus, asset management or something where you're sitting in a cube and kind of doing the model. I mean, for us, we thrive on the people component of this, getting out and meeting with people, developing plans, working together, partnering together. I mean, for us, it's kind of the biggest charge, at least I personally get out of all of it. And so being able to, expand our networks and expand our teams to work with those ambassador partners has been a thrill. It's been a lot of fun.
Great. So let's just wrap it up. I got a couple more just kind of fun. I'm going to name 4 people. Just the first 2, just if you could just tell me quickly, what you think their biggest strength is. And then the next 2, you could say whatever you want. Doesn't matter. First 2, you could just touch on strengths of both Ryan and Paul. I think, they're related. They started the firm. They're leaders. What do you think both of their top strengths are?
Yeah, just visionaries, just absolute visionaries. No, there's a lot of good things with both of them. I mean, both smart, sharp, capable, competent, but getting back to kind of have that vision to build an organization, take the leap of faith and the risk to come back to Kansas City and do it when it was still an interesting time in our economy, right? 2010, 2011 timeframe. They certainly had the vision to do that, but also to execute upon it. I mean, I think as we all know, it's not easy to build a business. So for them to basically balance that skill set and vision and everything else, but come in and really grind and do the work to do it. Early days, one of the biggest decisions was which printer do we buy? I mean, it's you kind of go all the way down to there. And so, they did an excellent job of kind of marrying up that vision to actually getting out and execute. And again, to do it in a manner to where, as we've expanded from 2 to 3, now to 9, and eventually 11, do it in a manner that maintains the culture and the ethos of the firm. And so, I don't know that that's necessarily a strength, a specific strength, but
right. But there's not that many visionaries out there. I mean, if, and obviously they get along, and I'm sure they have, for the most part, cordial arguments with everyone. And your reputation.
Thanksgiving's a trip. It's pretty good. So it was the 3 of us for, gosh, a 3-4 year stint there. And I'm like, man, I didn't get invited to the family Christmas or the firm Christmas. What's going on, guys? What's going on? So it's been great to partner with them through the years, and we're having a blast.
That's great. And then the next 2 that you could say anything you want. What thoughts on strengths or weaknesses for Mr. Andrew Gray and Mr. Tom Pollock?
Oh gosh, I mean, weaknesses don't exist for men of that caliber. Are you kidding? Oh my goodness, no, they. It's really, both are fabulous individuals and great partners to us going back to, the early days. I mean, we've worked with Tom specifically back to our first deal. And then when he partnered with Andrew, I think they basically launched Virtus right before we closed Mountain Valley. So that would have been, we closed that deal in February of 14. So I assume Virtus launched in January of 14, right, if I'm going back memory. And all along the way, I mean, they've just been, right by our side and really value-added partners. And so, great communication, great, content, great responsiveness. I mean, all the things that we need. But again, kind of going back to this theme of culture and value and ethos and kind of who we are and how we act, the groups we partner with need to be reflective of that same ethos, value set, because I don't care how much you like Mark or how much you like Ryan or Paul. At the end of the day, if we're saying, hey, we're partnering with Virtus, and Virtus goes down there and doesn't represent us in the same manner that we represent ourselves, obviously it ultimately just doesn't work. And so we've been thrilled to be long partners of Virtus and look forward to certainly continuing that here in the future.
Awesome. Well, on behalf of Virtus, thank you for taking a half hour out of your day, and thank you to yourself and everyone at Great Range for continuing to be a true friend of Virtus and business partner as well. Really appreciate it, Mark.
Yeah, you bet. Great to do it, and great to see you, Mike. Take care.
All right. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.